Good morning, or good afternoon, I'm sorry. I wish it was morning, I guess. It is September 12th, 2022 at 7:01 p.m. I'd like to call this meeting to order. We are at Campus Middle School. Welcome to all of you and thank you for being here. I hope that the start of the school year has been met with the excitement that it should be. So at this time, if you can, would you please join me in saying the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Mrs. Garland, would you please read our land acknowledgement?
On behalf of this board and the Cherry Creek School District, I would like to acknowledge that this meeting is being held on the ancestral and unceded lands of the Cheyenne, Arapaho, Ute, Ochekti Shakowee people who stewarded it for generations. The Ochekti Shakowee includes 7 bands, so I would also like to recognize that there are over 40 traditional tribal nations likely use this area for trade, ceremonies, and social gatherings. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Garland. This time, may I have a motion to approve the agenda for the September 12th, 2022 regular Board of Education meeting?
Motion to approve the agenda from the for the September 12, 2022 regular Board of Education meeting.
Thank you. Is there a second? Is there any discussion? May I have the roll call, please?
Directors Allen?
Aye.
Bates?
Aye.
Egan?
Aye.
Garland?
Aye.
McDonald?
Aye.
Thank you. That motion carries. Now may I have a motion to approve the minutes for the August 3rd, 2022 Special Board of Education meeting?
Motion to approve the minutes for the August 3rd, 2022 Special Board of Education meeting.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you. Is there any discussion? May I have the roll call, please?
Directors Allen?
Aye.
Bates?
Aye.
Egan?
Aye.
Garland?
Aye.
McDonald?
Aye.
Thank you. That motion carries. May I now have a motion to approve the minutes for the August 8th, 2022 regular Board of Education meeting?
Motion to approve the minutes for the August 8, 2022 regular Board of Education meeting.
Thank you. Is there a second? Is there any discussion? Oh, sorry.
Second.
Sorry.
Second.
Is there any discussion? Thank you. Roll call, please.
Directors Allen?
Aye.
Bates?
Aye.
Egan?
Aye.
Garland?
Aye.
McDonald?
Aye.
Thank you. That motion carries as well. It is at this time that we make time for individual comments from our Board of Education. Director Allen, would you start us this evening?
Thank you. Good evening. I'd like to thank Principal Alyssa Stahl and the Campus Middle School community for hosting tonight's meeting. And thank you to the security, IT, and setup teams for all of your behind-the-scenes work in preparation for our meeting. Tonight, I begin my comments with information on the crisis we are facing in special education. The Cherry Creek School District's central mission is to inspire every student to think, to learn, to achieve, to care. Our special education teachers ensure an equitable education to our students with disabilities. These teachers play a key role in making sure we are inspiring all of our students to think, to learn, to achieve, and to care. Students with disabilities are entitled to a free, appropriate education under the Federal Individuals with Disabilities Education Act. The federal government is supposed to cover 40% of the extra costs of providing special education services, but it has never fulfilled that promise. In fiscal year 2020, the federal government only contributed about 13%, according to the National Education Association. In the most recent academic year, 2021 to 22, 48 states reported shortages. Colorado is among those states, and Cherry Creek School District is feeling the impact of the shortage of our special education teachers and staff. Because Colorado is between 46th and 49th in the nation when it comes to school funding, it is becoming increasingly hard to hire and retain teachers. While there is long-term concern that the number of college students planning on a career in education is dwindling, we are presently facing an immediate emergency. And I fear it will continue to get worse if we continue to devalue and undervalue the work of our educators. I take time to recognize Superintendent Smith and Dr. Tony Poole and their whole team who have been working furiously to address the crisis with both short-term and long-term resolutions. Because of their efforts, all of our special education programs are covered. Even so, the crisis in special education is not going away. I also want to thank all of our special education teachers and staff. Your hard work is recognized and appreciated. To our parents and community members, I implore you to advocate for our children at the state and national level. Your voice matters. I also use my time to note celebrations and awards in our district. Cherry Creek received the Meritorious Budget Award for fiscal year 2022-2023 from the Association of School Business Officials International. Our district has received the award, which recognizes excellence and transparency in school budget presentation for 25 consecutive years. Cherry Creek was also once again named one of the best places to work in Colorado by Forbes magazine, and we are hiring. I also provide an update on the progress thus far for bus paraprofessionals pursuant to policy GBUC. On August 17th, 2022, the Office of Human Resources met with representatives of the bus paraprofessionals and approved the bus paraprofessionals moving forward in the certification process of a new bargaining unit. During this meeting, the bus paraprofessionals provided the Office of Human Resources with authorization cards. On August 31st, 2022, the Office of Human Resources verified the authenticity of the cards and communicated to the employee group that they had met the show of interest sufficiency requirement of 30%. Through this process, the office verified that 80 of 101 eligible employees have successfully completed their authorization cards. Currently, the office is working with the Federal Mediation and Conciliation Service to set dates for a certification and election process for casting a confidential ballot. I also wanted to talk about transportation and Ride 360. Our goal is to provide a safe and reliable transportation for all of our children every day. Cherry Creek School District is not canceling any bus routes this year and is also rolling out the Ride 360, which is a new system that improves bus rider safety, communications with parents, guardians, and efficiency. I also take a moment to address school safety. Students need to feel safe at school, and parents need to feel confident that we are doing everything in our power to keep their children safe. Here are some of the ways we are keeping our students and staff safe at your child's school. We are engaged in strong partnerships with law enforcement. We have highly trained district security personnel. There are deadlocks on every classroom door that were finished earlier this summer. And we have locked entryway and buzzer systems at all elementary and middle schools. There are also red bags with emergency supplies and two-way communication in each room. And I also, lastly, I would like to recognize Endeavor Academy. After receiving the standardized test results and under Principal Duran's leadership, Endeavor Academy moved up 2 levels in the school performance framework. I also congratulate several elementary schools who moved up 1 level in the school performance framework. Improvements in results on Colorado testing shows how our educators' growth mindset empowered their students to achieve and excel. This concludes my comments. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Allen. Director Egan.
Thank you, Director Bates. Good evening, and thank you to Principal Alyssa Stahl and Campus Middle School for hosting us tonight. Thank you to our safety and security and technology teams, too. All 4 of my children spent their middle school years here at CMS, and it's really nice to be back. I attended the district's first district accountability meeting of the 2022-23 school year last week. As you'll learn in tonight's presentation, the work on interpreting the state CMAS results is in full swing. The District Accountability Committee, or DAC, is a great way to get involved in the issues around growth and achievement in our district, including, but not limited to, intervention supports, progress monitoring, data interpretation, test participation, FastBridge and universal screener diagnostics, budgeting, parent engagement, and universal improvement plans. Thanks to Sarah Grobel, Norma Lerda, and their teams for their hard work. September is National Suicide Prevention Month, and to that end, I'd like to mention the mental health supports available to students and families in our district. Last month, I mentioned 988, the new nationwide number for the National Suicide Prevention Lifeline, specifically for people having suicidal thoughts or suffering from a mental health emergency. It's a challenging time for many people, and although suicide and mental illness are difficult issues to talk about, only having honest conversations do we continue the destigmatization around them. This district employs a 3-2-1 approach to mental health in our buildings, meaning there are 3 mental health employees in each of our high schools, 2 in our middle schools, and 1 in our elementary schools. The district's Mental Health Day Treatment Center is coming soon. And over the summer, the district partnered with Children's Hospital Colorado and the CU Department of Psychiatry at the University of Colorado Medical School to provide the clinical care for this center. There are strong mental health supports in our district. Please do not hesitate to reach out. I was proud to help distribute backpacks to our schools during the first week of school with district staff and my colleagues, Directors Bates and Allen. These backpacks and other school supplies such as notebooks, pencils, and more were provided by a generous donation from the Cherry Creek Schools Foundation, totaling more than $9,000. Congratulations to all of our district students who were recognized as National Merit Scholars last week. And please do spread the word about the critical staffing shortages affecting our special education departments. There is a district job fair coming up on September 17th. For more information, please check the website. This concludes my comments.
Thank you, Ms. Egan. Director Garland, please.
Thank you, Mrs. Bates. Good evening. Thank you to the campus middle school community for hosting us tonight. Last month, I had the opportunity to attend a community education forum held at the Denver Botanic Gardens and sponsored by the African Leadership Group, ALG. At the forum, students and parents shared their experience with education, which included discussions about COVID, distance learning, and technology. One of ALG's strategic goals is to achieve educational impact for children and youth of the African diaspora by advocating for improved public school systems and accountability, greater pathways to higher education, and leadership development from an early age. ALG's programs and activities support this goal by using education advocacy, parent involvement and engagement, and regular youth events. This weekend, I had the opportunity to celebrate the service and commitment of the Arapahoe County Sheriff Department at their awards night. Members of the Sheriff's Department and staff receive recognition and awards for their service in solving and fighting crimes, de-escalating situations, and performing life-saving techniques for the public and incarcerated inmates. Awardees were joined and celebrated by friends and family. And today, the Cherry Creek School District and the Arapahoe County Sheriff Tyler Brown swore in Riley, a 9-week-old Labrador puppy. He is the district's first school therapy dog. Riley will be teamed up with the school resource officer, Adam Nardi. The pair will be assigned to all the Cherry Creek schools in unincorporated Arapahoe County and Centennial. Riley will work with all types of students, including those with special needs. He'll bring comfort to students in times of crisis, help reduce stress, and assist those who suffer from anxiety or depression. The use of therapy dogs to support the well-being of students was a recommendation that came from out of last year's CCSD Mental Health Emergency Task Force, a group of students, staff, parents, and community members who came together to address the mental health crisis impacting our schools. Riley will become the newest member of the Arapahoe Sheriff's Department, and he will join 2 other therapy dogs, Rex and Zeke, who work in Littleton Public Schools. The Arapahoe County Sheriff's Office has seen great success with the use of therapy dogs at our neighboring school districts, and we're excited to expand the program to the students and staff in our district. Over the next year, Riley will train in basic obedience, then he'll attend an AKC Good Citizen and intensive class to become a certified therapy dog. When he's a year old, Riley will begin training in scent detection for firearms. Deputy Nardi has been with the Sheriff's Office for 20 years and assigned to the SRO unit for 4 years. He's taught more than 200 classes to students on how to stay safe online, how to be good online citizens, and drug and alcohol awareness, how to avoid substance abuse, and how to improve relationships with others. Deputy Nardi is looking forward to incorporating Riley into the many exciting programs for the Cherry Creek School District. Mark your calendars. October 8th is our district-wide STEAMapalooza event that will be held at the Cherry Creek Innovation Campus all day starting at 9 a.m. The Cherry Creek Schools Foundation is offering educator initiative grants of up to $1,200 for supplies, curriculum, and more. Educators who work directly with students can apply for funding to spark innovation and bring learning to life. From hydroponic gardens that could live on Mars to t-shirt printing businesses, only our educators' imaginations are the limit. Applications are due by September 26th, so tell all your teachers, and winners will be announced in October. Thanks to you for your thanks to our generous community members for funding this program, and you can learn more or get involved at ccsdfoundation.org. And that concludes my comments. Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Garland. Ms. McDonald?
Thank you, Mrs. Bates. Good evening, everyone, and thank you for being here. Thank you to Mrs. Stahl and the staff here at Campus Middle School for hosting. Security, custodial, and law enforcement, you are appreciated. Fall is an exciting time of the year. The school year is underway and fall events begin. Homecoming, community-wide events. Traditionally, for many years, the school spirit bus has brought excitement and energy to our feeder school areas. Parades, carnivals, football games, as well as other events offer fun times for our families and communities. One special event coming up, save the date, October the 1st, which will be Veterans and Military Appreciation Community Celebration and a football game. I believe it's between Eagle Crest and Grandview, if I'm not mistaken. And this is a fun event for families. Believe it or not, school community events and community-wide events that are related to them, to our students, have a positive effect on our children. On our children's well-being. Our young people perceive that adults in their community value them. A caring school climate provides an encouraging environment, bring about positive relationships. The things that I have referenced are a part of our core values, and it is also the old family community liaison role coming out in me too as well. Students from East Ridge Community Elementary School were featured on Next with Kyle Clark preparing for Artemis I rocket launch. Although the launch was delayed, students were able to learn about rockets and share their good news for the week. Congratulations to East Ridge students and STEM teacher Mary Anderson. Mary worked this summer with NASA to create a curriculum for K through 8th grade students. From this experience, some of the students decided that they wanted to become astronauts. Sounds like growth mindset to me. So tonight I have highlighted 3 of our core values, and when you go to a community event this fall, just think about what you're doing for our students by just showing up. Also, I'd like to give a shout out to Woodland Elementary, who had their opening on this month. It's always nice to see something come to fruition after seeing a hole and then some beams and so forth and so on. It's a beautiful, beautiful campus, and I was honored to be a part of that opening along with my colleagues. And I say congratulations to the Woodland Elementary School. Be bold, be brave, brilliant, and bounce back. This concludes my comments.
Thank you, Ms. McDonald. Good evening, and thank you to Principal Stahl and the campus community for hosting us this evening. And also thank you to those who work tirelessly to ensure that our meetings can be on the road. We value being out in our community schools. Last month, our teachers were just getting back for Teacher Work Week. It was exciting to see many happy, unmasked faces entering our buildings, anticipating a great year with their students. The start of the year has been met with great enthusiasm all around. On 8/11, our latest elementary school, Woodland Elementary, held a ribbon cutting ceremony along with family tours of the building. Thank you to our community for passing the 2020 bond. This school was possible. Families in the Blackstone community and the surrounding areas have been watching the progress from just over a year. Principal Burboni and her amazing staff have been building relationships and engaging in the community throughout this time. On 8/15, the first cohort of students started their year at Woodland Elementary. I am looking forward to the successes that this building and team will bring to our community. Later in the month of August, I was fortunate to participate with our district leaders and my colleagues to deliver backpacks and school supplies to various schools. As my colleagues have already mentioned, I'd like to thank the Cherry Creek School Foundations for their generous donations of over $9,000 in supplies. As the cost of everything continues to increase, we are seeing a greater need for supplemental help for our families. As I have reported previously, we have several schools that host food pantries for our students and families. They are always in need of donations of non-perishable food items. Recently, Leslie Navarro Walker, CCSD's Homeless and Family Engagement Liaison, reported that as of July 1st, we have 404 students that qualify for McKinney-Vento assistance. McKinney-Vento serves homeless children and youth. Homeless children and youth is defined as individuals who lack a fixed, regular, and adequate nighttime residence. This can include, but not limited to, living in hotels, motels, cars, parks, public spaces, and/or shelters. Of the 404 students that I previously mentioned, 16 are unaccompanied homeless youth. These are students that are out on their own without parental involvement. I consider my family fortunate to have never experienced such hardship. I hope that none of you will experience this in your lifetime. What I do know is that all but 2 of our district schools have McKinney-Vento kiddos. We all need to be aware this is happening in every community. Please consider there are many ways that you can help. You can host a neighborhood food drive for your local school food pantry. If your school doesn't have one, ask where your closest pantry is hosted. Host a warm clothing drive. Hats, mittens, and gloves are always needed. New underwear is a boost to anyone's day. Save those hotel toiletries. They may be the only soap and shampoo some kiddos ever get. I am always willing to help with these projects. Relationships and whole well-being need to be a priority. Students cannot be whole when they don't know where their next meal will come from or where they may rest their head that evening. Pay attention. You just might be overlooking a kiddo that needs your help. I know from personal experience that friends of my children were thrust into this position, and it makes me angry that I never knew how bad things were. I could have done so much more if only I had spoken up, if they had spoken up, or I had asked the right questions. Our students are counting on us, the adults in this community. Leadership Cherry Creek got off to a great start. It's always great to see so many community members that are willing to give up their time to learn more about the ins and outs of the many departments within CCSD. I love that we are able to educate community members to become informed advocates for CCSD. Representative Jason Crow made a quick visit to CCIC to learn from our students about the impact that technical education is making on their pathways of purpose. A small group of students talked to Representative Crow about entrepreneurship and the building infrastructure pathways. This week, SEAC came back together for their first meeting of the year. Most district SPED liaisons were introduced and an explanation of their positions explained. Dr. Tony Poole presented an overview of what his department does. Sadly, we are still experiencing a shortage of SPED teachers and paraprofessionals. If you or anyone you know has ever considered working in the schools, now is the time. This is a nationwide crisis that is happening. Recently, Dr. Poole presented to the board about all of the avenues that his team has implemented to bring in more staff. I have no doubt that they will leave no leaf unturned. And as Ms. Egan presented, 9/11 is in working order. I learned at the SEAC meeting this week that if you have an out-of-state cell phone number, the 988 number is redirecting people, so the Colorado number is not working for those people. So the 988, you need to call the 800 number that is listed on that website, or I'm sorry, I don't have the number with me. I just thought of it after Ms. Egan mentioned it. But you need to dial the 800 number if you have an out-of-state number. So I'd like to wish you all a great month, and I look forward to seeing you out in our community. So at this time, we are thrilled to have students here to present to us this evening. So our first student is Charlie Fendel. Is that Fendel? Thank you. Sorry. From Greenwood Village. Greenwood Elementary. Oh, geez, I'm really having a day. All righty. Well, Charlie, would you please approach the podium? Thank you.
My name is Charlie Fendel, and I am representing Greenwood Elementary. I've been at Greenwood Elementary since kindergarten. On my first day of kindergarten, I met my first Greenwood friend at a table filled with little cars. Someone came up to me and asked if they could join, and I said yes. Over the years at Greenwood, this relationship has grown. We are still friends to this day. This kindergarten experience taught me that it's easy to make friends if you are open to other people. At Greenwood, I've noticed that teachers always want to help kids find fun ways to learn. Even when some kids have a hard time staying focused, teachers help them by asking them to politely listen up. This shows that teachers really like their job and have a fun time teaching students. They want kids to learn, grow, and feel proud of themselves. Even though I've attended Greenwood since kindergarten, not everyone has. This has given me an opportunity to reach out and make them feel comfortable. One thing I've recently realized is for some kids, school is their safe place, so it's important to be aware and always include everyone. Kids at Greenwood aren't scared to participate. They participate in projects where they can create, craft, and speak out. These choices make learning exciting when you watch school TV shows. When you watch school TV shows, students are always shown not having fun. If the cameras were to come to Greenwood, people watching would see that school is really fun. Kids at Greenwood are dedicated and have a desire to learn. I know that my Greenwood experience has made me responsible at both school and at home. This is going to impact my future by giving me ideas and strategies on how to continue to work hard and be ready for challenging middle school projects. I am grateful that my neighborhood school is a place where parents and teachers can work together to make Greenwood a positive adventure for kids. Thank you.
Thank you, Charlie. Can I ask you a couple questions? Well, first of all, can you show everybody your shoes? I heard it's a big night tonight, and so I thought everybody'd like to see those fancy shoes you're sporting. So So those are pretty cool.
Yeah, I
Are
did
you-
notice those Bronco Air Force Ones. I was coveting those.
So, you ready to see Russell play tonight?
Yeah.
All right. So, and you have it on tape, I heard.
Yeah.
All right. So, how do you include everyone in your school?
Well, usually there's at least one person like every week that's just standing alone. And I like sports a lot, so I'm usually like playing football or like wall ball or something. And if they're like just standing alone by a playground or something, I'll just ask them if they want to join in. Or like if if their friends aren't there, then they'll usually be standing alone. So I'll just ask them to come over and play wall ball or I'll switch from what I'm doing and do what they want to do. So.
That's awesome. Thank you for doing that because that's so important. Having relationships with other kids in your school are so important. I have one other thing for you. What is fun about Greenwood?
The teachers, they're really nice. I haven't really encountered a single teacher that hasn't been nice to me or any of my classmates. They make learning really fun. Like they don't do just like what's 2 + 2. Like they'll make up like a fun concept on a way to do it.
Great. Thank you so much for being a leader in your school. Next year you'll be at campus?
Yeah.
Right?
Or no.
No.
I think West. Yeah.
Oh, you're going to West next year. All right. Good for you. All righty. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you.
All right. Can we please invite Jamison Lewis from Campus Middle School?
Hello. My name is Jamison Lewis, and I'm an 8th grade student at Campus Middle School. Today I'm talking about me and the school. But first, I would like to begin with saying how grateful I am for this opportunity that lays in front of me tonight. Now, me growing up as a mixed kid with a white mom and a black dad has been tough for me. My parents were separated when I was really young. I don't know a life other than 2 homes, and the best part, 2 Christmases. Being at school has really helped me when I was down about my family problems. I made the best friend I could have asked for in kindergarten. It was the day that changed my life forever. It's been 9 years since then, and I've learned a lot from a lot of the amazing teachers in this district. And with these new interactions, I've grown to be a better person and be at the point I am today in front of you. Like my kindergarten teacher, Miss Nelson, she helped me whenever I had a problem or whenever I needed something done. And Mr. Cerrone, my 5th grade teacher, he was like a mentor to me. Love that man. In my 9 short years of schooling, I've had some troubles, like everyone has. I was put in a special reading class from 1st to 4th grade. My teachers told me that I was meant to be there. I realized that I needed to have a growth mindset. Teachers at my school never told me this. My father did, in fact. He's an educator in this district. Love my parents. I have no way to repay them. Being at the school has really helped me be a part of the community, from playing basketball and being in the school play. I really do feel like a Mustang.
Thank you, Jamison. So your best friend, 9 years.
9 years, yes.
Wow.
Yeah, it's been a long time.
That's an awesome thing. I hope it lasts for a really long time. I have some
course.
friends who are probably, I don't know, 40 years ago. So it's been a long time.
It's been a minute.
So I hope it lasts for a long time for you as well. So I heard you talk about your special reading class that you went to.
Yes.
So you went to your special reading class, but you got out of there
I did, yes.
because you used your growth mindset?
Of course, yeah.
That's awesome. Well, good. I'm glad. And now look at you today, here, speaking in front of all of these people.
Yes.
So that's awesome. What do you want to do later on? Do you have any idea?
Later on, I want to be an entrepreneur, so I want to go to school for business. I have a candy selling business at the school, so yeah.
Wow.
And, you know, kind of selling myself out here, but yeah.
Wow. So if I come to campus someday, I can come hit you up for some candy?
Oh yeah, I'll hook you up.
All right. And next year you'll be at Creek.
Creek, yes.
Are you excited about that?
Of course, yeah.
What are you going to do? Are you going to be in any kind of activity?
Yeah, well, you know, of course, everyone wants to go to PE, so that's gonna be fun. Hopefully, we do some fun stuff there. But I'm excited for like meeting new teachers and having a new environment as well.
Great. I'm glad to hear you want to go to PE because we hear there's some kids who don't want to go.
Oh no, yeah, I definitely want to go to PE.
All right. Thank you, Jamison,
you.
for being here tonight. All right, TJ Hubble from Cherry Creek High School.
Hello, everyone. My name is TJ Hubble, and I am the student body president at Cherry Creek High School. It is an absolute honor to be speaking in front of you today. It is safe to say I am the #1 fan of Cherry Creek. Something so special about Creek is how our community shares incredible core values and demonstrates them in various ways. A quote from Robert McAfee says, "Storytelling is the most powerful way to put ideas into the world today." That being said, I'm going to present to you the core values through a few short stories of mine that have shaped my high school experience. Here it goes. Growth mindset. After COVID, the behavior of the student sections all around Colorado was at an all-time low. This needed to be fixed. Quickly, Student Senate and I organized a pep assembly at the beginning of the year in order to promote sportsmanship and get everyone excited for the year. As the leader of the Spirit Committee, I formed a group of Spirit leaders to stand in front of students at sports games to keep a constant force of positive energy. A few weeks later came the Friday night of homecoming week. Sutler was filled with a sea of red, white, and blue, and the student section was booming with cheers. For the first time in a long time, we reached max capacity in the Sutler Bowl Stadium. It was truly incredible. The game was not only a win for the football team, but it was also a win for our student sections. This was an important moment in our community. The best thing about these football games is that everyone from the community comes together for one reason, and that is to support our fellow Bruins. Our student sections have our slip-ups, but throughout my years at Creek, I've watched the culture in our student sections become significantly more positive. We thrived off of a problem we had rather than letting it define us, which I truly believe defines having a growth mindset. Relationships. Last year, our marching band made it to state. This was very exciting for our community. Someone had brought up an amazing idea to decorate the outside of the band room a week before they were off to state. I got a group together and we made a big sign that said "Good luck at state" and we decorated around it. I vividly remember while we were doing this, the band students were walking by and saying things like, "No one has ever done something like this for us before." This was a very eye-opening experience for me and others. I saw the importance of relationships within the Creek community and how a lot of them sprout from two groups supporting each other. With the large amount of diverse groups at Cherry Creek High School, I strongly believe that the relationships groups and students make with each other allows our community to be unified. Equity. Something Student Senate is known for is promoting other organizations. It is our duty to make sure all groups are being represented and supported equally at Creek. It is important we do this because people don't realize how fun it is to support another group in the community until they do it. Last year, Student Senate promoted and attended the Spectrum Dance to support the LGBTQ+ community. Not only was the turnout great, but everyone was having an absolute blast. Spectrum has had trouble feeling included in the past, and in this moment, we all felt unified. In order to make sure Creek is the most equitable place possible, Student Senate added a student body inclusion and equity coordinator to our executive board that ensures all student affinity groups are involved and represented equally. At Creek, we make sure all groups feel as if they have a sense of belonging in the community. Engagement. Some of the most impactful experiences I've had at Creek is during our Power Weeks. During our Power Weeks, the students of Creek come together and have fun, all with a mission to raise money for Bags of Fun, a foundation that helps improve the well-being of children with long-term illnesses. Last year, the Creek community raised over $60,000 for Bags of Fun. I remember celebrating and being in disbelief that we had raised that much money in our student senate room. Weeks of community service like these not only engage the people at Creek within our own community, but it also involves us with the community outside of just Cherry Creek High School. The students and staff of Creek stay involved and engaged in the community to make our culture better than it was before. All of these values definitely contribute to the overall well-being of students. One thing that was implemented in my freshman year to support students' mental health was advisory. Advisory is a class we meet in once a week where students can take a mental break, get work done, ask teachers for help, or socialize with fellow classmates. This also gives students a smaller community to feel comfortable in. The mental and physical health of all people in the Creek community is our first priority. As you can tell, I've really enjoyed my experience here at Cherry Creek High School. I believe that the students and staff of Creek prioritize values like these ones into their experience, whether they know it or not. As this year's student body president, I wish to ensure that all students feel as if they belong and can be involved in the community so they can truly live the Bruin experience. Thank you all for listening to me tonight.
Thank you, TJ.
Thank you.
So I love how you embedded all of our core values into your speech tonight, because that's what we believe in, and we are all striving to embed all of our schools, all of our curriculum, everything into our values into that as well. So I love how you put those all into there. So one item I'd like to ask you, so what are your plans for next year, first of all?
As student body president, like this school year?
Yeah, as in like after you graduate.
Oh, after I graduate.
After you graduate. Wait, do you have plans?
I'm planning going to college. I have no idea where that is yet.
No
Kind of
idea.
trying to figure that out, you know. But
Do you have a top choice that you're thinking?
my top three choices right now are Indiana University, the University of Georgia, and Florida State University.
My son graduated from IU.
Oh, really?
He did.
I saw it. It was awesome.
It's a pretty great school.
Yeah, it is.
All right, so do you see yourself continuing to use these core values later on?
Yes, I do.
You think you can use them when you get to college as well?
Yes, I do. I do plan on doing student leadership in college as well.
That's awesome. Thank you. I like to see that all of our kids. How about advisory? So in advisory, you've had it since your freshman year.
Yes, the first year was my freshman year.
So is that class, are you close with that group of friends?
Yeah.
Is that a good group of?
So I've been with the same people for all 4 years, and you know, like I've created my own little group inside of my advisory class. So we're all just like, it's fun though. Like we do fun things together, and this is a good small community inside there.
Just good community to lean on?
Yeah.
When you need to lean?
Exactly.
That's good.
Yep.
That's what we like to hear.
Awesome.
All right. Thank you so
Thank
much
you
for
so
being
much.
here. Thanks. Well, now Mr. Smith has the job of following all these student leaders. So let's see how you do.
I'm going to fail miserably, I'm pretty sure. I do think, we say this often, we do need to change the order. So a couple things that I just want to say to the students who are here. So Charlie, thank you. Thank you for recognizing that your teachers are having a positive impact on you in the way that they engage you. Also, thank you for being a leader. Thank you for going out of your way to make sure students feel accepted at Greenwood. And then also tell Ms. DePasquale, now you know me, so she better treat you all right, okay? Jameson, thank you, buddy. Thank you for being vulnerable. Thank you for being honest. Thank you for sharing your story. And I want to thank you for explaining to us what the relationship between a student and a teacher can be and how that positive impact can be supported through super, super tough times. You didn't have to share your personal story, and you did. And I thank you for that. And I just appreciate your courage. I appreciate your resiliency, and I appreciate that your dad's a teacher in this district. But thank you. Continue to be that. Continue to be resilient. Continue to be your whole self. And thank you for being here tonight and taking this risk. All right? TJ, wow, man. I got to do more things on my off time, I think. But first and foremost, thank you for taking the risk and going out in front of students when we weren't acting our best and asking them to do that, because that was a risk, putting yourself out there. So thank you for doing that for the betterment of our schools and for the betterment of our students. Thank you for taking on leadership roles in different ways. One of the things that we talk about in Cherry Creek is our students want to feel loved, valued, and invested in. And that's what you've done. You've taken different organizations, the band, the spectrum, and truly saying you matter. You belong as part of our school. So thank you for doing that. And I have no doubt that you're going to be successful in life. So congratulations and good luck on your next step. And Jameson, I'm going to be over on your entrepreneurial thing to get some candy. So, all right? So just know that I'm doing that. So I just want to thank all of the students here tonight. Thank you for getting up. We appreciate this is the best part of the board meeting. I'll keep my comments brief. I want to thank Ms. Stahl. I want to thank campus. I want to thank our security team and all those who set up every month for this opportunity. I want to echo what Ms. Bates said about the excitement in our school district right now. They've been 2 pretty incredible years that we've had to manage, and this year feels like we're coming to a part where our teachers are excited, our students are excited that there's a little bit of sense of normalcy in our district. Not that we want to go back to old normal, but looking at what a new normal can be. I also want to recognize that it's Hispanic Heritage Month from the 15th of September to October 15th. And I want to thank all of those, all the contributions that are given to our global society through our Hispanic culture and our Hispanic families. And lastly, or second to last, thank you, Ms. Egan, for having conversations around Suicide Prevention Month. Ms. Weinrob and I, Chief Health Officer, were at a conference this week where we were talking about the increase in suicide in relation to social media and cell phones. Really looking at that and how do we help our students navigate some really difficult times, where in our days, if things were happening to us at school, we could go home and be away from that. That's just not a reality for many of our students. The second part is our suicide attempts have gone up 58% since 2019. It is imperative that we keep eyes on our students. It is imperative that we keep eyes on our children to make sure that if we see a flag, that we reach out to somebody. It's not a stigma, it's an issue. And our students are willing to talk about it, and it's important that adults are willing to talk about it. So we will be sending out resources this week to our students and our families, working with multiple strategies that our students told us that they needed. One of the keys, and I want to thank Ms. Weinrob for this, in our printing department. Now in every single one of our high schools and middle schools, we'll have multiple posters so students can use their phone and scan it on a Scantron, and it tells different resources that are inside of our school district, who your social worker is, who your counselor is, who's the psychologist, and also community resources if you need them. We also put them inside of our restrooms, so if students want to do that and don't want to necessarily be seen for whatever reason that may be, they have the opportunity to do that in private. And then lastly, this morning I was able to work with Sheriff Tyler Brown and the Arapahoe County Sheriff's Office and hold Riley, a 9-week-old little puppy therapy dog, and I can tell you if it does for our students what it did for me this morning in 2 seconds. It's going to be an amazing thing. So it is super exciting. We're hoping it's the first of a couple, but we know that we need to find multiple ways to help support our students and our teachers as well. And I can tell you, when we have seen students who are either behaviorally or anxious and are having a difficult time regulating, the therapy dogs work. They truly, truly work. And so this is an opportunity for a different tool inside of our school district that truly did come from our mental health task force. So with that, I conclude my comments, and I would like to introduce our Assistant Superintendent, Sarah Grobel, and her team, and we'll have a presentation tonight on data literacy, and state frameworks.
Thank you, Superintendent Smith, and we're just going to let our team get set up over there. We want to say thank you for giving us the opportunity to be here tonight. We believe that when we start to talk about data in this district, it's really important that we humanize that data. So you saw 3 data points already here tonight, and know that to us, we know that this is an opportunity for us to see how our students are doing and then talk about how we can move forward. Tonight, we're hoping that the takeaway is that you understand how to use state data and internal data to create a body of evidence that it will create for our educators meaningful progress monitoring for our students and part of our comprehensive aligned assessment system. That we will also understand the work that we're doing to provide data literacy to our stakeholders in the system as we continue to look at these data points and what they really mean. And then last but not least, how the school performance framework is determined by the Colorado Department of Ed and how schools use this information to inform the school's goals and identify in the Unified Improvement Plan, which our schools are currently working on now and will be presenting to their communities over the next month and a half, and then will be due to CDE by the end of October. So with that, I'm going to turn things over to our director, Norma Lerda, from Assessment and Performance Analytics, to take it from there.
Thanks, Sarah. And thank you, President Bates and esteemed members of the board. I, along with Tara Valenga and Michelle Gennaro, our new partners of instructional assessment, are very thankful to have us here tonight to summarize what what we saw with our state assessments last year, but also look forward to what this year will look like as we support our educators and administrators at our school sites with, as Sarah described, some assessment and data literacy practices. And then finally, at the end of our presentation, just summarize the new transitional school performance frameworks and district performance frameworks, along with our new timeline for accountability for the state. So I'm just going to go through some quick slides here. So the state of the district really is just summarizing our spring 2022 results. State results and trends for elementary and middle school. Those are the Colorado measures of academic success in grades 6 through 8. And then at high school, the Colorado PSAT 9, PSAT 10, and the SAT at 11th grade. So just overall across the district in our CMAS, what we're seeing is that, from 2018-19 to 2022, really kind of flat when we look at English language arts. And then we see a slight decrease when we look at math overall. Now, when you look at that 2021 right in the middle, just know that that year, CDE, the state of Colorado, only provided assessments for half the students in each of the content areas. So we'll see how that plays out as we look at individual grades by district, and you'll see these kind of anomalous spikes, and that will explain that. So by grade level in grades 3 through 5, the percentage of students who met or exceeded expectations for both CMAS, English language arts, and math scores across all grades decreased slightly. And then again, when you see that spike at 4th grade, and then those spikes at 3rd and 5th grade, from 4th grade in English language arts, and you see that for 3rd and 5th grade in math, again, those are the years where math was, or English language arts was measured just in 4th grade, and then, in 3rd and 5th grade, and then language arts was measured just in 4th grade. When we look at trends for grades 6 through 8, really what we see here is kind of flat when we look across our grade levels, but what we did notice in this data was that our largest decrease was in 7th grade math, which dropped from 42% in 2019 to about 34% in 2022. And again, in 2021, English language arts tests were required only in grade 7, and then math tests were required only in grades 6 through 8. Now, when we look at our trends overall, just a point to keep in mind is that being at the 50th percentile in growth is at the state average. So you can see in English language arts from 2018-19, we went from a median growth percentile of 46 to 50 in 2022. And then in math, we went from a median growth percentile of 50 in 2018-19 to a median growth percentile of 51. Okay, when we look at growth in grades 3 through 5, this is where it gets a little murky because of not just COVID, but then in 2021, again, where we only measured half of our students across different grade levels. So what you'll notice here with language arts is that we only have growth for 21-22 in 4th grade. So we're looking really at, we're showing here 2018-19 to 2022, but it's really just measuring the 3rd graders who took the English language arts tests in 3rd grade, and then took the ELA test as 4th graders in 2022. Then when you look at math, we only have growth percentiles for 5th grade in 2022. So that measures the students who were 4th graders in 2021, and then took the math test at that time, and then took the math test as 5th graders in 2022. Okay, when we look at sixth grade, same thing here. We'll only have growth percentiles for grades 6 and 8 in English language arts, again measuring the fifth graders who tested in 21-22, who tested again as sixth graders in 2021, and then tested again as sixth graders in 2022, and then for eighth graders in seventh grade in 2021 taking the English language arts test, and then as eighth graders in 2022. And then in math, you only have growth really for seventh grade. And so this is where it kind of looks anomalous, because I had just mentioned in achievement that math was where we actually decreased the most from 2018-19, going from 42 to 33%. But then what we're seeing here in growth is that from 2018-19, the median growth percentile for seventh graders in math increased from 51 to 59. Now keep in mind, we're measuring the growth of sixth graders in 2021 who were seventh graders in 2022, so that's a completely different cohort. And if we're talking about numbers, it was about 2,500 students, seventh graders, who took the test last spring in 2022. But if you count just the students who had a score in seventh grade in 2022 and a score in sixth grade in 2021, that was only about 1,400 kids, right? So just know that 59, that median growth percentile of 59 does not represent all of our seventh grade students that were counted in the achievement. If we look at the Colorado PSAT overall in our district, this is a combination of grades 9, 10, and 11 in the evidence-based reading and writing from 2018-19 to 2022. We remain pretty flat, maintaining a percentage of students meeting grade level expectations at 72%. But when we look at math, what we see is a decrease from 2018-19 of 55%. Down to 48.9% or 49%. This tracks along with what we're seeing across the state, across the country, as an impact of COVID. What was seen in earlier testing last year and right at the end of 2020 was that math was highly impacted by the interruption of schooling over the last couple of years. When we look at this at grade level, what we see is that, again, it remains fairly flat across evidence-based reading and writing. And then what you see when you look at math, you'll notice that there are some downward trends looking back from 2018-19 going across to 2022. Okay, then we look at growth percentiles. What we can see here is that as a district, we are above the state average of 50 in our median growth percentiles. Looking at growth for both PSAT and SAT, and that's true for both the evidence-based reading and writing, and it's also true for math. Okay, then when we break it out by grade levels, just know that the state does not measure growth for ninth grade with the PSAT. And the way they would have measured growth is they would look at results from the CMAS in eighth grade and then measure where the kids ended up on their PSAT test at ninth grade. What the state looked at a few years ago is that the content that's being measured in the CMAS at grade 8 does not align with the evidence-based reading and writing test for grade 9, so they do not generate growth percentiles for that, but they do so in math. So again, when you look at this, what you can see is we maintain a median growth percentile of 54 at grade 11 for evidence-based reading and writing, but we did have a dip in grade 10 from median growth percentile of 53 in 2018-19 to 49 in 2022. And then when you look at math, again, our growth percentiles remain above the state average, but we do see some dips in grade 10, going from a median growth percentile of 55 to 53, and then in grade 11 going from 59 to 56. Now that what I shared was just a summary of what happened, and now I'm going to turn this over to Michelle Gennaro and Tara Valenga to talk about what we're doing moving forward with our assessment plans here in the district. Go ahead, Michelle.
All right, thank you for having me. I'm Michelle Gennaro. I'm one of the partners for instructional assessment. All right, so the screen on your slide talks about the instructional assessment cycle, part of what Tara and I help support within schools. It's how we measure and help monitor student progress in the interim of state assessments. So in this instructional assessment cycle, starting at got this fancy thing. Starting right here at the screening all K-9 students, we are currently in that window. Right now we are administering FastBridge to screen students' skills to see which students may be at risk of not meeting grade level by the end of the year. FastBridge specifically measures skills in support of standards. After screening, we have a diagnostic component, and during this, we triangulate multiple data points to diagnose which specific skill areas students may need additional support, intervention, or enrichment opportunities. After the diagnostic process, we go to planning, where we plan for providing the additional support, interventions, and enrichment. Could be during PLCs, data teams, MTSS meetings, or others. And then after that, we teach. So we implement those scaffolds, interventions, enrichments as needed with students from that screening, diagnostic, and then planning component. From there, we progress monitor to see if the interventions, enrichment, or scaffolds are working and adjust as needed. Then after that, we go back and screen again to see again which students are at risk or are on track to meet grade level skill proficiency. This kind of gives a timeline of the year. So again, right now we are in this fall window where we are currently screening all kindergarten through 9th grade students in reading and math. And then once that is completed, we complete that instructional assessment cycle. Then in winter, we will screen again, complete that instructional assessment cycle continuously, and then in the spring, we will complete our final screening to track our growth and effectiveness of the interventions and enrichment opportunities we provided.
Good evening, members of the board and Cherry Creek community. My name is Tara Valenga. I'm the other partner of instructional assessment, and I'm going to talk with you about FastBridge diagnostics and interventions. So as you heard Michelle and others, Ms. Grobel say, one of the things that we're really supporting the system with is the triangulation of data. And so while FastBridge is a system that screens all children and then makes recommendations for next steps in learning interventions, we're really working to support our system with our data literacy, essentially. And within the data literacy is assessment literacy. And so there on the far right side, you'll see a chart that talks about other assessment types: screener, classroom observations, qualitative data, diagnostic data, progress monitoring. And some other assessment types that are not on that table are student interviews. And so while FastBridge is one measure, there are other measures in our system that, when triangulated and analyzed, provide important information about what a student needs next. On that chart there, the diagram is one of the mental models that we're providing the system to help folks understand what does a triangulation of data maybe look like, and what are the different components. We're providing teachers and educators with other mental models and tools to develop our assessment literacy over time. And so here you'll see with our diagnostic assessments, it's really important for us to understand the current situation, right? And that's where our assessment literacy lies in the work of that. Knowledge about how to improve. Michelle and I and team are supporting different aspects of the system with that. And then required resources and working with other partners within performance improvement. All of that leads to action, more informed action. And then as a result, we'll see improved learning outcomes. Okay, so here you have one of our FastBridge assessment reports. This is what it looks like. This one is called the Screening to Intervention Report. It's laid out and presented for teachers to be able to analyze what's happening in their Tier 1 instruction, and it also provides recommendations for educators in terms of interventions. And again, with the intervention recommendations, we're really asking educators to use their other data sources to either confirm or maybe interrupt what they believe a student might need. So the way this is laid out,
do that. We have these circles here on the top, and the skills that are being assessed are phonemic awareness in reading, phonics and general reading, so comprehension. And those circles line up really nicely with these columns here. And over here on the left side, you'll have students' names and where they scored in terms of the combination of different assessments offered by FastBridge. Now on the right side, you'll see here recommendations for interventions per FastBridge and the different assessments that were taken within the system. One of the really great things about FastBridge is that it also provides recommendations for the whole group for universal instruction if 50% or more of the students are needing a particular skill. And it also provides some next steps for teachers, right? So a lot of information there, and we're also, expecting and hoping that teachers are using their best judgment as well. But this is a great tool to give us a place to start and working with our other data sources. So we're doing a lot to support our teachers this year in phase 2. Michelle and I and team have coordinated several professional learning opportunities with FastBridge. Inclusive of that is we're drawing on other information and other ways of understanding data to support educators with, yes, the assessment, but also with data literacy. So what are the mindsets and the other tools and mental models that help us understand FastBridge? And so we have a 102, a 103, and a 104 that goes over, and we've had our 101 already this year. It goes over different aspects of FastBridge and data literacy.
This slide is an example of a flyer that was shared out with all of the FastBridge site leaders with each of the trainings, dates they are offered, and like an overview of what report we are giving. So as you can see, there are multiple opportunities, and we've actually had some others join our sessions outside of site leaders, like a couple teachers, coaches, principals that have been joining in just wanting to get some more of that information.
All right, I'm gonna jump into talking about state accountability, but I do want to mention that Michelle and Tara through these trainings have also visited schools and worked with school teams, and really just kind of expanded that assessment and data literacy with those teams. So again, not just look at FastBridge, but also look at what they have in their toolbox in terms of the curricular resources, any classroom assessments that they're using, and as Tara said, just student interviews, right? So get that whole picture of the student before we take any action and make decisions on what they might need next. So it's actually really exciting for me because it's something that, in terms of data, we move from quantitative to even some qualitative pieces, and just to get that clear picture. So now the fun stuff is really talk about state accountability, and this is really just, I'm just going to summarize really quickly where we are with the state. The state has been, in terms of its accountability system, in limbo for the last couple of years. So what they've released last week, and was mentioned earlier by Board Member Egan, the school performance frameworks. At the district accountability meeting, this had come up. And really what the state is titling these frameworks now, they're calling them transitional school and district performance frameworks. And it's transitional because we don't have all the data that we've typically had in these frameworks in years past. So they're releasing something, and we're still holding schools accountable with these new frameworks. But as we get more data with state assessments next year, it'll eventually evolve back to what the frameworks used to count in terms of indicators. So this is just a breakdown of what has typically been in district and school performance frameworks. There are 3 accountability indicator categories that we'll see in the frameworks. There's a category for academic achievement, academic growth, and then post-secondary workforce readiness. Academic achievement and academic growth really apply just to our elementary and middle schools. And when the way it's set up in the school performance frameworks, academic growth is actually weighted more than academic achievement. So the state has this point system based on scaled scores from the CMAS test and or growth percentiles from the CMAS test. They assign points comparing where a school's average scaled score compares to other schools across the state. Based on those points, a school will earn points possible overall, and then once that is tallied up, then the weighting is applied to that. So a weight of 40% for academic achievement, 60% for growth. And then when you get into the high school and district performance frameworks, there's an additional indicator that's counted, that post-secondary workforce readiness, and then the weighting slightly changes. Academic achievement is weighted at 30, along with, well, that should be 30 for post-secondary workforce readiness. Otherwise, you have over 100%. I just noticed that now. So it's 30 and 30 for post-secondary workforce readiness and academic achievement, and then growth is weighted at 40%, right? So in both, high school, district, and then elementary, middle school, growth is always weighted more. Now, those indicators apply to different student groups. So you have all students in a school or district. Then it's broken out and disaggregated by English learners, students who are eligible for free and reduced lunch. The state compares, they look at the average scaled scores or indicators for non-white students, and then students on IEPs. And then what you have there in the color is just those rating bands. And I can't see it from here because that dark blue at the top. That's only available for districts. It's districts who are accredited with distinction. And the cut point for that is 74%. And then the cut points for both school and district performance frameworks will vary from 56% for accredited, 53% for performance for schools. So there's just different labels and different cut points depending on if you're looking at a school or district framework. So again, one thing why this is called transitional is because we don't have all the measures, right? So as I mentioned earlier when we were talking about CMAS growth, what we see here for at the elementary level is that fourth grade math and fourth grade ELA for growth, we don't have those measures available, right? So you're only measuring, again, growth for fifth grade math and fourth grade math. Now, considering that growth is weighted the highest in the school performance framework, but we're missing two grade levels and content areas for that measure, it really does kind of have an impact on those ratings, across the entirety of the school performance framework. Math or at middle school, where growth is really impacted is just that you're missing 3 grade levels, but there's still 3 other grade levels that have a growth percentile that is used for the school performance frameworks. So as a district, we were accredited, but we were accredited with low participation. So we earned an accreditation rating because we earned 67.8% out of a possible 100. And then low participation really refers to, there's actually 2 participation rates that are calculated. There's one they call the accountability rate, and then there's a total participation rate. The accountability rate accounts for any parent opt-outs. State allows that to happen, so we did meet the 95% accountability participation rate for the district, but in terms of the total participation rate, when you count the parent opt-outs in who participated, we were below that 95% mark. So based on federal accountability law rules, we do have to, the state has to apply that tag of low participation on our accreditation rating, even though we met the 95% participation rate with the state's accountability participation rate. So as a district, this is just a breakdown of our school performance framework summary. So we had 47, in 2022, this past year, we had 47 schools that earned a performance plan rating of performance, 12 schools that were identified as improvement plan rating schools, 4 schools that were identified as priority improvement, and we did have 1 school identified as a turnaround school. What we did notice this year with these transitional frameworks is we did have a couple of schools that had dropped 2 performance ratings levels down. So we had 2 schools that were a performance level school in the previous year that had dropped down to priority improvement, and then we had a school that was previously an improvement school, dropped 2 ratings down, went from priority improvement all the way down to turnaround. So we're seeing some of this across other districts in the state. There is actually a meeting next week to talk about the accountability system And I think this is where a lot of this conversation is going to happen. It's going to be focused on this. So what does this all mean? There was a delay in the release of the frameworks, and what that does is it also kind of delays our timeline. I'm sure you guys can read all of that from where you're sitting, but if not, I'll just let you know that the timeline for submitting our unified improvement plans, both the district and schools, has been extended from October 17th to October 25th. And then our schools who are identified as priority improvement or turnaround schools, within 30 days of receiving their school performance frameworks, they have to let their parent community know, have to send out a letter letting their parent community know that they had earned this rate of priority improvement, and then sometime in October, bring their parent community in to share their unified improvement plan before it's submitted to the state in October. Additionally, those priority improvement and turnaround schools are allowed to submit their plans to the state by January 16th. It's reviewed by a state review panel. They'll give them feedback on their plans, and then they'll have a chance and opportunity to make any revisions based on that feedback throughout the spring. And that concludes our presentation. If you guys have any questions, we'd be more than happy to answer.
Ms. Egan, would you start us this evening?
Yes, thank you, Director Bates. Ms. Grobel, Mr. Alerta, thank you, your team, we appreciate it. We have, as I mentioned, seen this material and appreciate your efforts on this. I do have a couple questions. And this is probably for you, Mr. Alerta, what considerations do you have basically in the interpretation of this state data? But I guess I'm also curious about it through the context of the pandemic specifically.
You know, I think the one thing we know of the pandemic, right, was it did have an impact on our participation rates. And it was especially impacted when you go up into the middle school grade levels. And so, you know, the one thing about participation rates, even if our participation rates are lower, what we would want to at least understand is, you know, who participated in previous years, right? What are the demographics or the breakdown of that population look? What does that look like in previous years? And then even if our participation rate for 2022 is at 70%, what we would want to know is, was that participation, or did the students in that population that participated, were they very similar to what we had in years past? Because if you have similar populations and enough students testing, then we could make some fair comparisons of what we're seeing in 2022 and what we saw in 2018-19. I think what we saw in 2022 was the students who participated in testing, that population was different from who participated in the past. So in terms of, does the 2022 represent what Cherry Creek has typically presented in terms of achievement and growth on the state assessment? I would have to say that it's not a fair representation, just because we know the demographics of who was tested in 2022 compared to you know, 2018, 19, and beyond. So we caution people to make some interpretations as to what it represents, right? And then when you get down to the school level, I think where the meaningfulness of the assessments come into play, especially when you're talking about school performance frameworks, is how do we use this data to inform our unified improvement plan, right? The state's plan, or the state's process for developing a unified improvement plan, is it always starts with your data. And based on your data, what do you see in your data? What do you understand as a challenge at your school based on that data? And then what are you going to, what caused that? And then what are you going to do to improve that? We've had some work sessions with principals over the last month, and this question comes up. It's like, how do I use it? I got my CMAS data. I'm looking at it. It looks really strange. What do you want me to do with this? Do I have to change my major improvement strategy based on what I'm seeing with the data? And what I'm consistently telling principals is just, you know, put something up, summarize that data in your plan. But whatever you're doing in your strategy, as a strategy at your school, if you feel that this is still where you want to emphasize, if you want to emphasize getting better at literacy or getting better at math, then continue with that plan. Just kind of extend those action steps, the next steps in implementing that plan for this year. You know, I think changing your entire strategy or, you know, improvement strategies based on a singular data point that we have to be very cautious about. I don't think that's very wise at this point. So we're trying to make sure people understand. You know, when these guys talk about data literacy and assessment literacy, it's really making those interpretations not just on one data point, but really understanding that current situation, what's going on at your school, and what your school really needs in terms of improvement. That was a lot. But.
Thank you. That brings up another question that I do have for you. So in terms of the PLCs that are meeting in your buildings, and last year I know that we started a new elementary school approach to a position that can really address some of these issues and have consistency across the buildings in our district. So I wondered if you or Ms. Grobel could potentially address that? Or
are you talking about PLCs?
Okay.
Oh, yeah. Instructional coaches. Yeah, sure. I was going to ask you guys to talk about what you do at High Plains.
So we were lucky enough through our budget to be able to offer an instructional coach, a 0.5 at each elementary. What that allows us to do is take some of the great thinking that's happening in assessment and performance analytics and make sure that we train someone that works with the staff at each one of our schools. Last year we rolled that out to every elementary. This year we were able to then roll it out to every middle school and high school. So as we sit and work with Norm's team, we talk about strategies, we look at universal instruction, and then we look at particular data points. We're able to give instruction that then goes out to every school, and those instructional coaches can then work with the staff there to really pinpoint the instructional strategies that will support that work. So that's probably the biggest thing. And then teachers come together in PLC time or professional learning communities to practice those and then look at the data points as they put different strategies in place.
Thank you for talking about that. I have one more thing. I appreciate you adding in the information. I think the dates is really important when we talk about the 3 tiers. I'm not sure what slide that was, doesn't matter. But can you talk about some of the intervention supports that happen in our classrooms, specifically around, let's just say, literacy?
Thank you for the question. So depending on local measures that the school uses and FastBridge, a team or a teacher can provide interventions like the smallest unit of study at the elementary, which is phonemic awareness. And in FastBridge, there is a bank of interventions, right, that teachers can access if they're not sure where to go. They also can utilize coaches and other folks in the network. There are also recommendations for at the phonics level, fluency, vocabulary, and comprehension. And currently, there is some work happening in the system around what that can look like for secondary, seeing that that was an area of need. And so I don't know if you want to speak a little bit around the Lexia pieces, but I kind of just joined that, right, that they're learning around that. But knowing that at the elementary level, interventions need to look different than in the secondary level. So what a second grader is doing in phonics can't necessarily look the same, right, in terms of what a ninth grader might need. So there are some pieces being developed currently to support our secondary kiddos in that area.
Yeah, and we're also Michelle and Tara have done a really good job of reminding folks that we also have a lot of curricular resources that do provide interventions, supplemental pieces, and those are tools again that FastBridge identifies some interventions and you can access it through the system. But there's also a lot of tools that we've implemented especially at the elementary level in the past year and a half, that are also useful as interventions, and some progress monitoring tools that schools have developed for themselves to keep track of what's going on in terms of student learning. Yeah.
Oh, Ms. Carlin, yeah, thank you.
Thank you. I just would like to do a follow-up question from my colleague, Director Egan. So my understanding is that like by third grade, if a child's not reading proficiently, they're going to struggle because at that point you are reading to learn. So like the science assignments, you get a worksheet and you have instructions. So when you talk about intervention supports, I know that I know what happens in elementary school and I see that, but I don't think I've ever seen intervention in middle school. What does that look like?
I'll let you guys answer if you want to, but I'll start. So we do have a team, and we have two partners that are our English language specialists or content specialists, and they do work and look at what those interventions could possibly be. One of the most important things and what you'll hear us talk about with FastBridge is this ability or skill set that kids need as a foundation. And so what FastBridge does for us is it recognizes, first of all, if the kids have the skill set necessary in order to actually access the content or the proficiency of the standard. And so that's the first piece of what FastBridge will do for us. Then we start to move into now in a PLC. Now that we know that a student has a skill set, now we look at a particular standard and try to figure out if a student is meeting that standard. And so the teacher would start to look at that. And if they're not meeting that standard of proficiency or with a proficiency, then they would start to put things in place. That could be a one-on-one. It could be a small group intervention. It could be that maybe they need to sit, and I'll talk literacy in particular, maybe they need to sit with a student one-on-one because they might be missing the fluency of reading through sentences with a rhythm. But those would all be things that can be done in small group or one-on-one. But again, what we push in Cherry Creek is that that is part of our universal strategies that happen in the classroom setting, and not necessarily as a pull-out for kids outside of the wall of the classroom. It happens with that general education teacher.
I guess in my mind, like middle school, so if a student is behind in reading or literacy to some level, the teachers, there's one-on-one groups within the classes that protect their dignity and get them, I mean, because obviously when you're older, you pick up on a few more things. So that's happening in the middle school classrooms.
That should be happening, and that's where our professional learning community work is so important, because it allows us to look at real-time data points, not only from state assessments, but also from our local measures that give that data to teachers, and then within those professional learning communities, allowing teachers to share practices. So this is the data for my class. I have a small group of students that are struggling with this proficiency. What kind of strategies can I implement either for small groups or for individual students during my time together? You'll often see as we're walking through classrooms, and I know Superintendent Smith along with our district leadership have been out in classrooms, and we'll see teachers walking around in the classroom either working with kids one-on-one or maybe they've pulled a group of students together. Again, that dignity piece is so important because we need to get to know our students and where they struggle and where they also do really well, but then we also need to know what we can do in a relationship inside of a classroom to really help promote and help them be successful with individual teaching strategies. Am I missing something? I see talking. Okay, I didn't know if I was missing that. So I do think that you would see that, and what we could do is also, again, connect you with our literacy partners as well as our math partners or other content. We actually have another one here from social studies, but they could speak to that individually with you if you had additional questions of what you would be looking for.
Yes, I would like that down the road. My next question is there any correlation between access to higher level classes and the scores on, like, particularly the PSAT and SAT and college entrance exams?
So I'm going to speak a little bit to this, and I'm going to turn to Norm. There is a lot of work that's happening. So again, when we see students that are struggling with proficiencies on certain standards, it could limit them from having access to later classes. But in Cherry Creek schools, we don't use testing scores to necessarily determine if kids can access later advanced or honors levels courses, AP or IB. What we do is actually sit with students and try to determine where they're willing, through areas of passion and interest, to want to take on a challenge of a higher level course. So College Board actually has a lot of reports that they work on with districts where they will give them a report. Here are kids that I see you have them in college prep classes, but I think they could be on honors and advanced classes based on what testing scores they have previously. Our building admin and leadership will use those reports, but I think it's more that we really want to push our kids to access higher levels when we see that passion and interest, and when we see the capability of kids, if they're able to do that. Anything you'd add to that, Norm?
No, we haven't really looked at that relationship between PSAT and higher level courses. What we have done before was look at AP test scores and AP grades, and we do see some mismatches. It goes either way. Kids will score high on the AP, get a low score. Like they don't even show up at AP classes. They'll just show up, take the test, and you get vice versa, where they get really high grades in an AP course, but then might not score as high on an AP test. That's really the what analysis we've looked at.
And then is there any data on how like cell phones technology, autocorrect, grammar impact student testing, and particularly in grammar and literacy?
Not that I know of yet, but
okay.
I'm sure there's somebody looking into that.
Somebody should do that. And then I think one more question. For our English language learners, what's my question here? So how does is there fast bridge and interventions in their native language? Or are they all in English?
No, not right now. And even there is a Spanish version of the fast bridge test, but we don't administer that in our district.
Okay. Is there a reason why?
Not a real reason why, but there is also a state Spanish test that we don't administer. So we've consulted with our English learner department on what assessments we should administer. And typically in this district, we don't administer the Spanish language state assessment. So we just kind of follow that lead with our fast bridge as well. And it's, that's just a decision we've made. And so I don't know if we might continue to look into that for the future.
So if we don't do that, so how are we sure that we are not, again, when you're trying to identify kids in all the spectrums, whether it be GT or special education, if it's not in their native language, right? Because Genius doesn't only come in English. How do we know that we're getting everyone, or are we just not?
It's a good question, and I think we'll continue to look into that, and I think we'll probably pull in Dr. Porter to have that conversation as well, as along with our special population directors.
Thank you.
Ms. McDonald?
Thank you for your report. I know you had said that there would be a difference between last year's this year would be phase 2 for training teachers and what have you. And after identifying the needs of students and implementing interventions and what have you, how often will you monitor the progress of the students?
So FastBridge recommends, when you're giving a student an intervention, you should progress monitor weekly and adjust course as needed, but still give it about 2 to 3 weeks of applying an intervention on a regular basis, and then monitor that intervention weekly. And usually after about 6 to 8 weeks is where you really do another check-in to see if a new intervention is needed, or if that one was working, then to continue.
And Janice, when we talk about progress monitoring, diagnostics, so the universal screener, we're screening all of our students, and then the students who are flagged for possible supports, right? Then those are the kids that would get that diagnostic and then that progress monitoring. So universal screening, and then it's a small population of students who will get that diagnostic testing. Now, as a system, to see whether or not what we're doing is working, we do administer the FastBridge 3 times a year, right? So our fall, winter, and spring. That overall serves as our interim measure. So it's kind of like our dipstick at 3 different points throughout the year to say, are our students in general making progress towards that grade level proficiency? But within the classroom, you can have 1 or 2 students that a teacher is working with, providing those interventions, progress monitoring on a daily basis, or you might have, an entire classroom that is going back because that universal instruction isn't meeting their needs. So they're getting additional supports within that universal instruction to make sure that, they get back on track for grade level. So depending on that level, we're either progress monitoring progress of students every week, or we're doing it 3 times a year with those interim benchmark assessments.
Okay, thank you. And I might have missed it, but what is the difference between academic growth and academic achievement?
Academic achievement is that one point in time, right? How did a kid do on a test, or how did a group, a grade level, an entire grade level do? What percentage of those students met grade level benchmarks? Academic growth is really looking at where was a student in the previous year, what was their starting point, and where did they end up, right? And then you make comparisons of, like you might have a group of kids that all start at the same score of 400, but the next year one student gets 600, one student gets 500, one student gets 550. Those students would demonstrate different levels of growth, and then that's where those comparisons are made. But you do need at least 2 data points in order to measure growth, whereas achievement is based on 1 data point.
Okay, thank you.
Sure.
Thank you.
Okay, Ms. Egan. Sorry, I lied. I called you
Alan.
Ms. Allen.
Thank you for your presentation. So what happens when a school is a turnaround school?
So really the first thing that happens is they do have to add additional pieces to their unified improvement plan. They have to address the early needs of the students at their school. They also have to communicate let their community know that they've been identified as a turnaround school. And then they're put on what's called an academic clock, right? So this year, anyone that's identified as a priority improvement or turnaround school for the first time, they're essentially on clock on year 0 of the academic clock. Is that right? Yeah. It's something different. So it's year 0. And then if they're turnaround priority improvement the next year, then they're in year 1. And then it just continues. And then at some point, if you're on the clock too long, then that's when the real consequences start to occur, where either the school is, the administration is replaced, or a district could be taken over, by a private company or by the state. So there's different consequences, but that usually doesn't happen until about 5 years on the clock. So our goal every year is, if we have a priority improvement or turnaround school in this district, we're going to provide them that support to get them off that clock as soon as possible. And we've had some success over the last few years. I think Endeavor was an example of that. This year, they went from a priority improvement school the last 2 years to a performance school this past year. And I believe we had another school that was on priority improvement and just made it into improvement this year. So we want to make sure that they stay at that level so that they're off the clock.
With the, just in learning about fast bridge diagnostics, are these diagnostic tests comprehensive? Are they short? I'm just wondering about how long the actual diagnostics take when there are often complaints that we're over-testing our kids.
Do you want to speak to that?
Are you either?
Depending on the grade level. So sometimes the upper grades, they're inclusive of the computer adaptive. So it happens within 20 to 30 minutes. It's down at kindergarten and first grade in reading and mathematics, where teachers do the one-on-one assessment, so you get a composite score. And that can take up to an additional, it takes time when we're first learning it, to about 12 minutes. But the more practice you have with assessing those, or using those to assess kids, the faster they go.
And if I can just add one thing, as we start to look at our core values, what is important to us is what is going to make the most growth for kids. And what we're finding, especially if you look at Marzano's strategies, is that the more that we can create self-advocates for our kids, where the kids understand what their skill sets are, where not only their areas of high achievement are, but also their areas of growth, and they can be a self-advocate for what they might need. And that's what something like FastBridge allows us to do, is to have that conversation with students. So it does take a little bit of time, but just like when students get feedback, it allows them to create goals and then also achievement of what they think should happen over the next few weeks, is if they keep working on the strategies that their teachers give them.
It sounds like we're providing or encouraging teachers to use their best practices and what works in terms of the interventions and assessments. How are we tracking what's working or are we tracking what's working within that? Because I appreciate the autonomy, but then if they have ideas that can help other teachers who are struggling with those pieces, how can that information be shared?
Well, right now within our system, if they're progress monitoring, and we also define progress monitoring tools as tools that ensure whether or not the interventions are working, right? So if the student is hitting their progress monitoring goals, obviously the intervention is working and the assessment is right. We're also looking at a different platform. So we start talking about things like multi-tiered systems of support. There are some platforms that allow data to be connected to the students, various data, whether it's common formative assessments that are being used in the classroom, or it's just teacher administered, developed assessments. It's tracking that information so that we create this bigger picture of what a student needs. And something like that's electronic can also be shared with other stakeholders within a site, so that the decision-making of a student could be shared amongst like a PLC. And then that conversation at PLC of what's working, that's where that happens. So we are examining some different ways, different platforms that we can allow teachers to share their data more readily.
And then my last question was, I think you talked a little bit about the RAISE program, but can you explain what that is and how that is supporting our teachers?
Can I talk to that?
So our RAISE program is in conjunction with CCEA, so I see President Ellis here tonight, but it really is a way for us to start to look at our brand new teachers, our teachers that have been in the profession a couple of years, along with our experienced teachers that continue want to refine their practice. So the RAISE program is in collaboration with our instructional coaches, which we now call our Instructional Excellence RAISE coaches, i.e., I'm not going to get this right, RC, sorry. But it allows us to really look at instructional coaches as being a way for us to look at creating efficacy with all teachers at all levels, and really focus on their growth and professional learning. So again, great collaboration with CCEA.
Thank you. Done? No, thank you for your presentation.
Okay, thank you again for your presentation. I appreciate all the questions that my colleagues have had. One question I was going to ask you is, your levels 102, 103, 104 for the FastBridge learning, the training, how fast are we expecting our teachers to get through this? I'm looking at the dates on here. Are we expecting teachers to complete it by January?
So we are mostly facilitating these with the site leaders at each school, and then they will go with their, lead the work through their school from there, depending on where the school is in their process. And each of those dates it's like we're offering about 6 dates for each training to choose from. It's not all of those dates that are required. Those are the different choices. But it's really to build that data literacy over time and not do everything once overload. But our hope is that, the 102s and 103s are occurring right now, this these next couple weeks. And then when we go into after the winter window, we'll have growth data, and that's when we'll really dig into growth at this point.
Okay. All right. Thank you again for your presentation. It's always something to listen to and see how we get through here. Thank you. Okay. So it is at this point in our meeting that we make time for members of the audience who have completed the online public comment form prior to 12 noon today to address the Board of Education. In order for everyone to be heard, please limit your comments to a maximum of 2 minutes. A buzzer will sound at the end of the 2 minutes, and the microphone and audio will automatically be muted. Each speaker may only speak once during public comment. Speaking time may not be shared between speakers. This is your opportunity to go on record with comments to this Board of Education only. In accordance with board policy, it is not a question and answer session. Please recognize that students attend most of these meetings. Any speaker whose statements or behavior are unrelated to the business of the district, appear threatening or unsafe, or are inappropriate for K-12 students may be interrupted or warned, and their opportunity for further comment will be terminated. We are very interested in your feedback and will listen carefully. On behalf of this board, I want to thank you in advance for your comments and for taking the time to attend tonight's meeting. Would you please invite the first group of speakers to line up behind the podium?
Yes, thank you. I'll invite 5 at a time. Please come up, and when you come up, state your name. Lori Niederhoff, Sarah King, Lori Dimmelstein, Paige Brisky, and Maureen Welsh.
Okay. Hi, I'm Barbara Niederhoff. I'm a Cherry Creek graduate, mom to 3 district grads, former district employee, and a longtime resident. And just with this being Suicide Prevention Awareness Month, I'd like to call attention to a couple of important ways we can help our children survive and thrive. The first is important both at school and at home. Teaching life skills to help children manage their emotions and navigate social situations is a proactive way to support and strengthen mental health. This kind of social and emotional learning has been shown to have a protective effect by helping kids better weather difficult times and encouraging healthy problem solving. A guide to evidence-based programs is at pg.casel.org, and students can get free counseling at imattercolorado.org. The second way I want to point out is making sure that any firearms in the home are stored responsibly. The move from suicidal thoughts to a decision to act is usually made on impulse, and it can take mere minutes. Putting barriers between that decision and the means to carry it out saves lives. So if there is a gun in the home, storing it unloaded and locked separately from ammunition is the best protection. Families can learn more at endfamilyfire.org and besmartforkids.org. Above all, I hope we can ensure every child knows they are not alone. Everyone struggles at times, and there's always someone willing to help. Thank you for your time, and thank you all for your work and your commitment to mental health and safety.
Sarah?
My name is Sarah King, and I have 4 sons at home in the Cherry Creek district, 2 at the high school, 1 at a middle school, and 1 at elementary school. I'm here to make a complaint to the board about obscenity in the school libraries. I know firsthand how obscenity can destroy families and impact a young person's view of human relationships. There's a book called Let's Talk About It, A Teen's Guide to Sex, which has already been temporarily removed from the library according to Section I of the Board Policy Code IJL, which states in part that materials may be removed due to inappropriate content, including explicit adult content. I want to express my utter shock and despair that this book was in the school libraries in the first place. In it, you will find things that are reserved for the darkest corners of the internet and would be shocking to the decent adults of this community, much less children. While this book has now been temporarily removed and is pending building review, there is another book called Gender Queer that is still available to children as young as 10, with drawings and descriptions of violent and depraved acts on pages 62, 64, 136, 140, 164, and 168. Another book called Flamers similarly describes vile acts, specifically on pages 14, and depraved acts on page 23. In addition, there are drawings and descriptions of vile acts and abuse. The harmful effects of obscenity are well documented for adults, but what is unbelievable is that the books made available to children as young as 10 actually promote the obscenity with these drawings, descriptions, and instructions of the most vile and depraved acts, and encourages searching the internet for it, experimenting, buying toys you would find in adult bookstores, and the like. These books sexualize children and destroy their innocence. Our world is hyper-focused on the self, and resulting lack of sexual boundaries has made its way into children via the books provided by the libraries. This is a terrible thing to teach young people. It's misguided and always...
On August 11th, I sent an email to you guys requesting a response to 3 simple requests. And after waiting 16 business days with no response, I resent that email CCing my lawyer with a request to meet with one of you. And interestingly, that very same day, I finally got a bewildering response from Interim Superintendent Corey Wise, indicating the following answers to my request. That 1, the district refuses to make the Board of Education and other meetings available in a hybrid format, thereby purposefully blocking our community's access to important school information. 2, the district refuses to send out a simple district-wide email to notify parents of their right to opt their children out of participating in all surveys, exercises, and assignments that ask them to divulge their sexual orientation, their values, their religion, and beliefs. But you will send out district-wide emails to notify parents of their right to opt out of statewide testing that reveals our children's academic performance. And 3, the district refuses to provide balanced information to all new hires and existing staff about alternatives to membership in the Cherry Creek Teachers Union, such as the non-union, nonpartisan Professional Association of Colorado Educators, or PACE. They do not spend any of their members' dues on partisan politics, and nor do they support or oppose controversial agendas unrelated to education like our teachers' union. I continue to be disappointed, but no longer surprised that all of you choose to ignore and discredit parents' concerns and communications. I would like to ask, after her response that just was before me, that all sexually explicit books in our school libraries be removed or put into a protected section of the library that requires parental knowledge and permission for students to check out these books.
I'd like to discuss kids and declining enrollment. Over 400 families representing over 1,000 kids who have left the Cherry Creek School District have responded to an anonymous survey that was distributed over the summer. This survey was created and distributed in good faith with an agenda to better categorize and understand why families were leaving and where were they going. Of these families, 24% left to homeschool, 46% left for private school, and 43% left for a different district or a charter school. One question allowed for the respondent to choose as many answers as were applicable, of which there were 11. That question was, why did your family opt to leave Cherry Creek School District? Those answers encompassed racism, bullying, relocation, politics in schools, SPED services, quality of education, ideologies taught in schools, etc. Here were the top 3 answers. 71% had concerns over the quality of education. 68% desired no politics in the schools, and 84% disagreed with the ideologies being taught as it relates to sex, gender, and race. Lastly, of these families, 24% said their kids felt safe at school. 32% said that they did not feel safe, and 44% responded was somewhat safe. Now, some will respond to this survey feedback with concerns over response bias, incomplete distribution to the target audience, or some other obstacle associated with using a survey for information gathering. To this, I would challenge CCSD to put together a group of parents who have varying and differing perspectives on how the district is doing and create an independent survey managed and analyzed by an independent organization agreed to by this community and committee. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Maureen Welch, and my son James is here with me tonight. He has some information because 2 minutes isn't enough to put everything in speech. I have 2 boys at Cherry Creek High School, and I'm a recovering teacher myself. And I wanted to first of all say thanks for all the great opening comments about special education, in particular comments from Director Allen and several other of you encouraging people to apply for the jobs if they know anyone who wants to work in special education. I also loved hearing the students today, and I've attended the last 2 of your work sessions that I was able to come to. And I have to tell you that I've learned a lot about the district and shared that, thank you, James, shared that with a lot of people I know. And they were like, I wish I could go to the board meetings, but I'm home with my autistic child who cannot come, or I don't have a car, or I don't drive when it's snowing. And I would just like to challenge the board in the spirit of all of the core values that we heard about tonight to open the process, to make the tent bigger, to broadcast, live stream all of your public meetings so that the members of the public can actually participate and hear the information, because I've learned a lot in the last few meetings I've attended, but it's not available to anyone who doesn't have the privilege that I do to attend today. So that would be my challenge. I also want to stand in support of the bus aides. My son gets support from the bus aides going to and from school, and if it weren't for them, he wouldn't have that great, safe start and end of the day. And also, I just want to make sure the board knows how much we appreciate everyone and all the staff here too. I don't want to leave out the staff, but broadcasting the meeting, you all did it during COVID. I had a nice chat with the IT team over here, and they said, we did it during COVID. And I said, that's true. I forgot about that. So I don't think it's a technology thing. Let's do this out of the spirit. Let's exceed the minimum of the Colorado Opens Meeting Act. Let's exceed the minimum of the Colorado Civil Rights Act, saying full and equal inclusion is important.
Okay. Rima Wadden, Heidi Parrish, Allison Benton Jones, and Brian McKinney.
Good evening. My name is Rima. I am a parent, actually went to campus, and my daughter is going to campus as well. Last May, many faculty, staff, and parents came here expressing our concern of outside groups who are actively working against the school district's core values. We provided examples of inequities that occurred against our group and other marginalized groups within the district that felt, including socioeconomic violations, religious discrimination, private events being held without family members being able to participate, and lack of implementation of non-discrimination clauses for CCSD parent organizations. It has come to our attention that outside parent groups, including CCSD Pop Stars and Cherry Creek Parent Action Network, have a selection process for joining their groups. It appears to me that if you're against diversity inclusion, CRT, SEL, you would advance in their selection process. If you are a white female and believe on these terms, you will also advance. But if you support diversity and inclusion or are non-white, you will be rejected in their selection criteria. In this light, we've asked for an activation of Equal Opportunity Advisory Council to ensure that parent support groups are indeed working within the frameworks of the CCSD goals and frameworks in mission. And I just wanted to say that this is my first ask is what is the status of these meetings. I know we met with Chris Smith. I think those initial steps were great, but the suggestion was a meeting of chairs. However, PASS does not have a chair, and therefore they would be not voice in this selection criteria. My second ask is, why doesn't PASS have a chair? All other parent organizations have it, and also maybe we can reframe Parents Action PASS, which is Parents Academically Successful Students. Is there a more up-to-date term that resonates with parents with students of color? And there are many parents with the district do amazing things when diversity and equity and inclusion are included within our schools. You see a community come together and they all feel like they belong. And we will continue to champion all the districts, our principals, our teachers, our staff.
Should I go ahead? Thanks to all of you for your service, first of all. Most of us want schools where every child and every family are valued just as they are and supported to become the best they can be. We know that school is a place where children from every place and background come together to learn from the past so they can prepare for their lives ahead. We're in a time right now when narrow partisan political groups are spreading fear and pitting us against each other. They spend vast amounts of money on media and social media to sow suspicion towards teachers, parents, and even toward children. They promote artificial limits on whose stories are told. All the made-up controversies distract us from the very real funding problems that starve our public schools and deny children the tools that they need for their future. Colorado has one of the nation's strongest economies, and yet we remain at the bottom for school funding. We can stick together and speak up to reject the manufactured division. We can support policies and vote for officials who will send our schools the resources they need so that all of our children have the knowledge to succeed wherever they go and the skills they'll need to work with anyone they meet. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Allison Benton-Jones. I'm the mother of 2 recent CCSD graduates, an invested community member, and a mental health professional. After continuing to attend and observe school board meetings for the last year, I felt compelled to make a comment tonight thanking the people who genuinely work very hard to keep our schools as safe as possible. While not a comprehensive list by far, most recently it has included school bus assistants, who have consistently spoken in this forum over the last year, the district security team, as well as resource officers from the cities of Aurora, Greenwood Village, Cherry Hills Village, and Arapahoe County. While I want to and hope to highlight other important people in the future, tonight I want to highlight the bus driver assistants and bus drivers who have supported them throughout this last year at the Board of Education meetings. I appreciate them not only for the physical and emotional protective function they serve each and every day for our most vulnerable students, but even more importantly for their role modeling they have provided to us adults here over the last year. Each month they consistently, respectfully, and firmly shown up to advocate for awareness of their needs that in turn impact the needs of students directly. Their way of communicating their goals has been consistently clear and firm, but not blaming, passionate, but not hostile, respectfully demanding, but not entitled. Observing this process, their process has made me, as well as others I know, grow and rethink best practices for working together as adults, even when opposing thoughts exist and can make things really uncomfortable at moments. It seems their way was both effective and community building. I appreciate it, and I hope we can all embrace that helpful mindset in future meetings and beyond.
Good evening. I'm a parent in this district, and I thought it'd be instructive today to let you all know what it's like. I've been advocating for Black students in this district for the last 2.5 years. So I think in thinking about why there is a lack of parents of color in these buildings, in these settings, let me tell you a little bit about what it's been like for me. So what does it look like as a parent advocating for black children in this district? It looks like women following you to your car after board meetings, badgering you, nearly accosting you as you go to your car, because they don't like the fact that you're advocating for Black, brown, indigenous, LGBTQIA students. What else does it look like? It looks like me being the head of DAC, the District Accountability Committee and needing security for a District Accountability Committee because of all the threats out there. What does it look like? It looks like my wife and my neighbors being scared for my safety and my well-being when I come to board meetings, school board district meetings. That's what it looks like as a Black parent advocating for Black kids in this district. And then I find that this Cherry Creek Parent Advocacy Network has put my face, my voice, my name on a members-only website. So they know there's an issue because it's not on a public website, it's on the members-only website, making me a target. The same group of people that were silent when a militia came into these board meetings to intimidate Black and brown families in this district. That's what it's been like. That's what it's like for me, and it's intimidation. And I've seen them try to intimidate you all. One thing I'll say for everyone, including the woman over there recording me, there is no world that exists in which I would not advocate for the underserved and the underappreciated Black and brown students, families, and employees in this district.
That concludes our comments.
Jim.
I'm trying. Excuse me? Point of order, please. Thank you. Before we move on to consideration of the resolutions, are there any resolutions board members would like to pull or discuss? Thank you. Then may I have a motion to approve the consent agenda, resolutions 22.9.1 through 22.9.9.
Motion to approve the consent agenda, resolutions 22.9.1 through 22.9.9.
Thank you. May I have a second?
Second.
Is there any discussion? May I have the roll call, please?
Directors Allen?
Aye.
Bates?
Aye.
Egan?
Aye.
Garland?
Aye.
McDonald?
Aye.
Thank you. That motion carries. At this time, the only remaining business is to announce that our next Board of Education meeting is Monday, October the 10th, 2022, starting at 7 p.m. to be held in person at Woodland Elementary School, 7795 South Blackstone Parkway, Aurora, Colorado 80016. Please remember to be informed with actual facts. It is important to attend meetings at your local schools and these board meetings. Please keep yourself and your loved ones safe. We hope to see you all in person next month. May I have a motion to adjourn tonight's meeting?
Move to adjourn.
Thank you. May I have a second?
Second.
Is there any discussion? Roll call, please.
Directors Allen?
Aye.
Bates?
Aye.
Egan?
Aye.
Garland?
Aye.
McDonald?
Thank you. This meeting is adjourned.